Hello, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for a few minutes of fun. I'm going to have a few minutes of fun with white flowers today. As you've just seen, lots of the flowers in my garden are white. I love the light they bring, the sense of freshness and hope and possibility. Yeah, obviously colours are allowed as well, but thinking about white flowers, so over the next couple of episodes we'll do a bit of painting of white flowers just to see how one can do that even against a white background and allow a white flower to pop. So that's coming up, but today we're going to do it with a bit of stencil flipping. Regulars to the channel will know I love flipping stencils, mostly to get random backgrounds. I'll link to one of those videos down below, but sometimes it can be a deliberate design choice. And if you want white flowers, it's no good going through with your blending sponge and your colours, because you're going to get colourful flowers. And by and large, many flower stencils, whatever they may be, this is Tim Holtz one, this is my recent Hydrangea one, this is a Donna Downey one. As always, ingredients will be listed down below. So the way to get your white flowers, if you want them from a stencil, is with flipping. Now, you are going to want to put some colour through the flowers as well, but given this is thinking about the background colours I want, these won't necessarily be the colour flowers that you might expect, because in my background I probably want skyish sort of colours. So I'm thinking in blue terms. I might add a bit of green in, because that can also be nice in the sky. It gives the impression of distant leaves. So this is going to give us sort of bluish coloured flowers. You can do this with ink pads and a blender. You can, of course, go straight in with sprays. So let's grab a couple of sprays as well. Here are sprays. That's going to make the process a lot quicker. I'm working as usual just on my cheapy watercolor paper, and with this kind of point is I don't really want to paint the flowers. I want to get ink onto my stencil. So as I'm spritzing, you can do this in a splat box or an old pizza box or just on waste cardboard. I'm just looking to make sure I've got ink covering all those outside areas. Usually you might try to aim for the flowers and therefore not get things in a mess. And then all I'm going to do is lift that up. You can see there are lovely drops of ink all over that. We've got some rather nice blue flowers there, looks like blue china. And then I'm going to take another piece of this and just flip this over. You might want a little spritz of water just to allow those inks to mix a little more. Straight down onto the paper. A little bit of kitchen roll will be my ally in terms of not getting my fingers too inky too soon. But you can see that ink is spreading out under there. There was plenty on the stencil, and as I lift up, what I get are beautiful white rosy blossoms on a tree. You can obviously add more detail to this as you go. You could put in some greens for the leaves and so on and so forth. I shouldn't have wiped that straight off, should I? Because what I could do is maybe go for a lovely subtle additional secondary stamping, printing. Let's just see what we get. Another thing is really nice to have around when you're stencil flipping is just have a journal hanging around, an art journal, and you can print any leftovers ink into there. Yeah, it didn't get us quite as much because I stupidly wiped off the ink before I started. So there are my white flowers, simple as that. Let's do it with a couple of different stencils. One of the reasons you'll know that I love stencil flipping, and you can see this in action in the other videos that I'll link, is that you get yourself immediately coordinating pieces of background so that you're ready to create in a series or a pair or a collection, which, as you know, I love to do. Let's do something with the hydrangeas. So these you may have seen in action. I did some stuff over in the PaperArtsy People Facebook group already, and I will share these again in another new video at some point quite soon. So on this one, I think what I'll do is I will give myself some purpley hydrangeas, because you do get plenty of purpley hydrangeas. I'll mix in some blues as I go as well, and then just allow whatever colours those are. So again, I'm going to try to make sure I'm getting ink on more than just through the holes. I'm also putting that ink on the areas around. So with this large hydrangea, for the most part, I don't use the whole hydrangea flower in one go. I use little sort of corners and edges, if you can have a corner of a mass like that, to give myself smaller hydrangea flowers. So these are definitely going to be subtler. In fact, why don't we try it on the same piece of paper? So I'm going to spritz. There is a bit of ink there, and I'm going to see if I can get myself just a sort of mirror image, little bit of white hydrangea down here, and then we'll do one with the spraying, because obviously the spraying is both quicker and gets you more colourful ink. So that, as a shadow effect, I really love the softness of that. So I think I might just gently do a little bit more. I'm going to put another bluish purplish hydrangea down here, just layered over where the white one didn't really take. So now I've got that lovely layer of white and blue, and just off onto a spare piece of, what have I got here, any old fabric. Just going to do a little spritz through here with, I want something quite gentle, I think. What have we got? Maybe speckled egg would be nice, just to get some sprayed ink onto here. And then I'm going to come in and stamp that, or print that. Really it's printing, because I'm not using a stamp. And there we go. I get that lovely impression of soft white flowers up in that corner. Might put one of those here as well. So the thing with hydrangeas is the abundance of flowers that you get. And as that's softening, I'm really enjoying that sort of sense of soft messiness. There's lots of ink left on here. I'm just going to print some of that through the middle to give me a background look of leafiness, softness, just layering up those hydrangea flowers. Let's do one with a spray. Might just turn that over just to get some sprays through here. Let's go with, just put the lids on these. I think blue is probably where I'm still at. I'm just having a look for a little purple to give us some depth. Right, let's go. Stormy, no, what is this? Broken China through here. Just getting some ink onto the stencil. And, ooh, that's going to be full on. That's Villainous Potion. That's really going to give us something deep, dark and mysterious. So let's pick that up. And we've already got quite a nice hydrangea flower there that I might rip up or use in something. Another way to just soften and get this ink on is to shove ink through with a sponge at this point. But let's go first of all for some beautiful white hydrangeas, like so. So again, just pressing down, let that ink spread out. And get yourself some white flowers as you peel back, and I'm sure we can get another of that. Just these impressions of layers and layers of hydrangea flowers on the plant. Love that. Love that. Very soft, very loose. And then I'm just gonna, how many more bits of paper have I got? I always think, oh, I'll cut off plenty and then I'll have plenty to work with, and then it never quite works out because I always think of something else to do. So just to show you, there's plenty of ink on here. So if I now take, it could be an empty sponge, or you could be a blending tool, and I'm just going to sort of shove that ink back through that stencil, the leftover inks, and that's going to give me a beautiful subtle flower. It doesn't have to be hydrangeas, of course. Any floral that you're working with can do this, can create those lovely soft little variations on a theme. This one is so full on. Look at that as a hydrangea. If those colors are really too much for you, any watercolor medium will dry a bit paler, but if you want to just lift up some of that color, and that's giving me beautiful little spritz patterns, Lovely stuff. So where's my Donna Downey one gone? And let's do one final little flip for some white flowers. This stencil is called Poppy Forest. They actually also look like umbels to me. Love a white umbel, as you know. Love a white poppy as well. I had some white poppies last year, and I tried to store the seed, but they don't seem to be back, sadly. I think I do want a little bit of green in my background for this one, because it's much more meadow flower kind of thing going on. So let's echo a little bit of, oh, what colour are you? Bundle Sage. You look very grey to me. Let's do a little bit of that. That's my peeled paint just zooming everywhere. But what I can do to just get a little bit of fresher green on there is I'll put a bit of Mowed Lawn just around and about. This is all going to mix and match when we get into the printing. So up here, I'm going to have a bit more sky variation going on, and I might put a little spritz of that down there as well. So we're now going to have quite, again, random flowers underneath, and that's fine. This is a delicious game that gets you unexpectedness, and it's nice if you don't drip a whole ball of stuff in there. That's a beautiful stencil. So I think without putting too much extra water on here, because you can see I've got loads and loads of ink, I'm going to go for the first one just without any kind, and unfortunately, when I drip that water, that's going to give us a big blotch. So maybe we will put a little spritz of water there. Okay, and flip. And flip. Because that's what we're here for. Flipping for white flowers. And again, just with the paper towel. Because my paper towel is now very mucky, I'm doing my best to avoid pressing down where the actual flower heads are. Because that I don't want to do. I don't want to put a big smudge of ink right in the middle of my delicious white flowers in there. Now let's see what happens if we do a softer one with a bit more water. This should be a much more watercolory kind of effect. Soft and gentle. Let's pop those there so we've got the whole flower head on. You can see you're going to get inky doing this. There's no two ways about it. If you're fussed about getting ink on your fingers, you might want to wear some gloves. But if you've got Europe's summer temperatures at the moment, that's probably not going to be a thing, wearing gloves in this heat. There we go. Let's have a look at what we've got there. I can already see that that's deeply enjoyable. Let it sit, let those inks really get into the paper, and then peel away for your white poppies. You could even probably get one more on there, but I think I've got enough to be going on with. So yeah, creating white flower backgrounds is as simple as getting the stencil flipping into action. I'm going to just clear up a little bit, and then we might come back, and as I said, oh look, what a shame I smudged that one. Can't be helped. Can't be helped. What I could do is trim it to a really narrow bookmark, or when we add some detail, maybe we can change that. I'm going to give these a quick dry, have a quick clear up, and come back and show you how you can just use a bit of pen work or even coloured pencils to add some detailing to these flowers. There we go. So things are mostly dry. I've pulled out some useful tools for adding details, pens, dip pen, bit of ink. Got my watercolour brushes. I've got some Aqua markers, and I've got the Holtz Distress watercolour pencils. And yeah, since we've got the watercolour pencils, let's maybe start with this one. I'm hankering after, I've got a desire for a little bit of green on this one. So I'm thinking maybe what I'll do is grab, first of all, a little Distress watercolour pencil. I can dip it in some water to start with, and that'll start to loosen the pigment. And I'm just going to add that very softly, loosely to some of these leafy bits, just to give ourselves, and I can go up some of these stems. So as I do this and those leaves become green, the flowers become whiter, because again, they're now not only in contrast to the background, they're in contrast to the leafiness going on around them. So they start to take on even more prominence. Along with that, doesn't have to be just a Distress watercolour pencil. I can come in, I can give myself a little palette of ink here on the mat. That's the Mowed Lawn. So just with a brush, I can complete some of those leaves and give them a slightly different colour tone. And it's also giving you a variation that means the leaves are in light and shade, they're at different stages of development. You get that variation in colour. Nature is rarely all one colour. So keeping things nice and soft and loose. I'm not being terribly bothered if I go over into the blue background, just adding touches of leafy colour around these flowers. And then one other thing I think I might do, because I do quite enjoy having just a little bit of green in the centres of these flowers. You could also do that with a yellowy tone. Maybe a little bit of old paper is nice, because that's a very soft old green. It's now mixing with the green that I already had there. And also into these flowers, what you can do is give yourself just a little bit of shading and detail, maybe at the center of each petal, so that you're creating an illusion of depth and just a little bit more detailing on those petals. Sometimes coming down the side of a petal can help, so that we're not leaving them entirely white. We'll talk about that some more when we do the painting version next time around. Might not be completely next time, but we'll come to it. I want a few more leafy greens. And then just with a clean brush, so just a watery tip, I'm just going to soften some of those bits of green that I was adding to the petals. Doesn't have to be green. You could choose to add some pinks right to the center, but leave the edges of the petals free to play. So there they are, just those little white flowers popping into life. Let's have a go with one of these others. Let's have a look at these hydrangeas. Yeah, so again, I'm sort of tempted by a little bit of greeniness, because it just means the centers of those flowers get a bit of depth. Let's just drop in. Doesn't have to be all of them, but you can see it's just giving us an idea of detail within those white flowers. And then again, you could choose something like quite a pale coloured pen. I don't want to go too dark to start with. These Aqua colours, like most pens, have got a wide end and a narrow end. And I'm just putting literally a few scribbled dots into the centre of a few of these flowers. Again, just to allow the eye to be drawn into the middles of things. Trying not to put my fist down in that pile of green ink, that puddle of green ink that's there. And you can even, if you're feeling very brave, kind of delineate a few of these petal shapes. Just add a little bit of extra shaping, bit of form to the loose petals that our printing has got for us. And again, with the abundance of a hydrangea flower, you don't need to be too precise about it. The joy of them is that you can look deep into a hydrangea and just see shapes and petals and shadows and light. That might be enough on that one. Conversely, on these ones where we've got lots of colour, what I'm quite inclined to do is come in and add some detailing, as we did with the loose watercolour flowers recently. I am going to mop up this ink now, but I don't think I'm coming back to it immediately. Well, hang on, having said that, it would be nice to have some greens around here, wouldn't it? So that's Mowed Lawn from an ink pad. I'm adding some peeled paint from my pencil. And then I'm just going to go with quite a broad brimmed brush and just sort of dab in some greens, just that impression of soft leafiness around the edges, but also through the middle. There we go. So you've got that sense of leaves heading off. There is, of course, a leaf on the stencil, so if you're feeling shy about doing this, use that leafy help that's available on the stencil. Let's wipe that up now, because otherwise I am going to put my hand down in it, and then I'll probably print it onto something else lying right nearby. I haven't done the thing I usually do when I'm working with the pencils, is have a piece of paper towel just sitting there to catch them. I'm thinking on this, I'd like a little bit of dip pen, and this is the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleedproof White, which I've just put down on that green bit of matte. So my guess is it might end up a little bit green, but that'll be fine. So just in the same way we did with a dark pen in the middle of the white flowers, I'm going to add a little bit of detailing in white pen over these dark flowers. Again, just heading first of all for those centres, because it starts me off with a sense of where's the middle of each flower head. Just getting down into those. And then again, I might do just a little bit of petal outlining, very scribbly, very light, just building a sense of what's the shape of this flower, what's the shape of what's going on here. You could do this with a white gel pen, of course. I have spoken in previous videos about how I both have found that the dip pen is my easiest way to keep a white pen working, because I use my gel pens over ridiculously textured backgrounds and then quite rightly they give up on me. So the dip pen I've found to be both reliable but also just a pleasurable tool to use. For me, I like the scratchiness of it. I like the sense of history you get with using a dip pen rather than modern gel pen technology. It will also, of course, as long as I treat it reasonably well, last forever, and I just buy new bottles of ink. I can use it with any colour ink, and it just allows me, and I'm just thinking I might put a little bit of leaf shaping through there as well. At the moment, that's a starting point for that one, I would say. There's more I'd probably like to do to that. Let's have a look at this one. So we've done a little bit of detailing on the white flower versions. Let's just maybe pull a little bit of detail into these petals. So I'm just going to come to the edge as we did in that watercolour detailing video. I'll link to that as well below if I remember. Let me know if I forget if you want it. So that's quite a nice way to just add a little bit of extra detail to stencils. You know, there's a limit to the amount of detail you can put on a stencil because it needs to not fall apart. But that means that you have the possibility of going in to add your own extra details later. So again, just pulling out some of these petals to give them a bit more presence, as well as adding little bits of detailing that are just coming in from the edges to give us shaping and a bit more precision on some of those flowers. So just those little strokes give you a sense of movement and life within the flower. I'm also, again, a little bit tempted to come in and just green up these leaves. So I'm just going straight over the blues that are there. This is with the pencil. I might, oh look, I can get myself a pastel white green. And with that Bleedproof white, that might show up a little better against these. Or I could do it with an acrylic paint. Acrylic paint will of course go straight over the top. That won't be a problem covering up the blues. But it's not really that I want to cover them up so much as just add to them. Augment them with a bit of green. A little bit of extra fun within that. And you can see where the watery white is going on. I'm quite enjoying that. It will mix eventually with the blues coming up from underneath as it dries, I'm guessing, because those distress inks remain reactive with water. So it's just giving us a little bit of extra detail and delight. And then the other thing I'm thinking I might do is take some of this green that's on the mat and just go, you know what's going to happen. Spatter, spatter, spatter. There it is. And I think that might be the thing I want on these hydrangeas as well. Let's get a bit more softness into that. So I'm just going to aim for the hydrangeas themselves. Create that extra bit of life and interest and spatter magic. Yeah, that's fun. Let's do it on this one as well. And again, it's just softening those flower petals, but also creating a sense of detail and delight amongst the flowers. Bit of extra movement. Grand. One last pair to play with. Let's have a look what we've got here. I'll leave this on the mat for now. Yes, look, straight in with the dip pen and this leftover greeny white ink now. And I think what I'm going to do is just add it quite softly and loosely to the tips of these flowers. Just allowing it sort of is turning into an umbel in my head rather than a poppy. The paint is still a little bit wet here, so that ink is sinking right in. I could do this with a brush even, and I might get a little bit more of an impact. So just going to, no, that doesn't want to show up. So what I might do with this is come in with a bit of acrylic paint, or I'm going to let them dry a bit more, come back and see if we can do anything. That I at the moment don't want to do anything with. I like it exactly as it is. Maybe just the teensiest bit of spatter. What do you think? Yeah, that's what it wanted. Grand. So I'm now going to get myself a bit of white paint and do something similar. Well, it's not quite white, it's chalk, but that will do. It's an off-white. Now I know that an acrylic paint is going to show up over these watery inks. There we go. That's what I'm after. Just something that adds a bit of detail to those blocky heads. And at the moment it is slightly sinking into the paint still, but if I continue to add those layers, then I can create that softer look to those poppy heads. That's what I was after. And I think maybe a similar thing here, just to create some pollen in the air, dust, motes of sunlight, whatever it feels like that is to you, that's what it'll be. And then again, maybe with the green pen. I'm sure I had a green pen. It's nearly run out because I like to use it. Just thinking we might shape a little bit of detail around the edges of these. Maybe that sense of petal shapes. Just something that breaks up that big block of white that we've got for those flower heads. Keeping it quite simple, keeping it quite soft. And I might go in and just, it's Aqua marker, so it will respond to water as well. Just softening those shapes a little bit, creating a bit more detail and definition. I love the spray pattern we've got down there, and I might just put in some stems is the last thing I'm thinking on there, just to see, just to compare what it's like to have those stems in. I'm going to keep it nice and soft. Just a bit of detailing through those stems. Trying to go down sort of the middle of each of those stems just to catch them with a bit of pen work. That's very subtle. So let's try it with a slightly darker green. See what we get. This is also not run out quite as much, but there's quite a nice dynamism to that. I'm not even necessarily hitting directly. That's good, because I do love grassiness, as you know. Let's go up into the buds of each of these. Just a little scribble to let the flower head sit on a sort of opening, and that I will soften. Okay, this is about enough fiddling. Sort of there with what I want to do on adding these. So stencil flipping is great for abstract stencils, getting just designs, backgrounds down. But if you've got floral stencils and you want white florals, stencil flipping is going to be your way to create a gorgeous array of white flowers. And then, yeah, you choose how much additional detail you want to add to any of that. I'm coming in with the white spatter now over some of these because, again, I just really like the softness it gives to these flowers. Spattering into my box of pencils now. I love the energy of that as it hits those inks and just gives us something extra for the eye to hold on to. That's pretty. Maybe a touch more on here. I love this one, this watercolory print, that background sky with the meadow. So green was the right choice on that one as far as that goes. And yeah, I'm hitting those flower heads with some spatter as well, because it just, again, even white on white breaks up the solidity of those white flowers. Let's get a little bit of spatter going on here. Again, breaking up those deep blues. It gives the eye a sense of extra, something more to catch our attention, particularly if you use white as your spatter. You obviously don't have to. That's very much my thing, as you know. And then we've got this little sort of background piece that, yeah, I might rip up and use as part of a page, or I might collage over, we'll see. So I hope you've enjoyed that little quick summary look. Excuse me. Oh, look, I forgot that one is lovely. I love this variation between the coloured flowers and the white flowers on here. And yes, while I've got that paint on the mat, I am going to give these a little hint of spattery detail as well. Thanks as always for your company. I'll try to remember all the videos I promised that I would link down below. If you've enjoyed this, do give me a thumbs up, hype it. If you know what that is, then go for it. If you don't sweat it. If you're not already subscribed, we would love to have your company on this creative journey. And I'm just going to now wish you happy crafting all.